Hello, welcome to the Pikku Kimalainen knitting podcast. My name is Rachel Mariama and I am your host. This is a podcast mainly about knitting, and today I'll be including some embroidery as well. You can find me as Pikku Kimalainen on Ravelry and Instagram. I am most active on Instagram. If you want to send me a message, that's usually where I will respond. There's also a group for this podcast on Ravelry. A link to it will be in the description down below, and there is an introductions tab if you would like to fill out a little questionnaire to introduce yourself to everyone in that group. It's a lot of fun reading your responses. And anyways, I guess I can get right into the knitting. I have one kind of finished object today. It is a design project that I've been working on, and it's kind of scary because I'm going to be releasing the pattern soon and making a test knitters call. I don't know, it's my first pattern, so I'm a little nervous, and I just really hope that I've managed to articulate myself well enough in that pattern so people know what I'm trying to tell them what to do in the directions. In real life, I know I have those troubles just because I get so nervous. Even on camera, I tend to mess up what I'm saying, and when I go back editing, I go, oh no, that's wrong. But hopefully, with this being out on paper, I will have managed to write down a good pattern. But anyways, let's get into works in progress. I've just been working on 2 knitting projects this week. And the first one I will talk about is my Throwback Cardigan by Andrea Mowry. I've only really managed to knit a sleeve on it this week, and as you can see, I ran out of this color here, so I started knitting this marled colored yarn, which is 2 yarns held to double. It is a strand of Holst Super Soft and a strand of yarn that I reclaimed from an old sweater. So I think that'll turn out very nice. It is a little floppy because I blocked it just so it was easier to show off for the podcast. I had knit the button band and the neckband a little tight, so it was kind of scrunched up and didn't look that good, so I thought for the sake of showing it off I could give it a little block. As you can see, I've changed some things with this pattern. Since it is such a scrappy sweater, I did end up adding some baubles and fringe. I'm not done with the fringe. It's going to go all across the arm, and then it'll be trimmed probably to that length, just so it's not too busy. This is already ending up being a really busy looking sweater, but I think once it's blocked out it'll look okay. But yeah, I've just knit a sleeve on this. I did knit a little too long for this one. I do want quite a puffy sleeve, so I'm going to frog back maybe an inch or 2 and then decrease half the stitches, and then knit a 2x2 rib. I believe the pattern calls for a 4x4 ribbing, but I'm not the biggest fan of really chunky ribbing, so I just went with the my favorite 2x2. And I'm really loving it so far. I gave it a little try on, and once it's actually on me, I think it looks quite nice. Even though it is kind of a strange project, I do think it'll go with my other pieces in my wardrobe quite well. And yeah, that's my throwback sweater. Not much to say about it right now since it's not finished. Maybe I could do a tutorial for how I attached that fringe. Basically, let me see if I can, my needles are flying everywhere. I'm sorry if you can hear that. Basically, I went in a stitch where this color meets the lighter color. and I went between one of those stitches and picked up a bar and basically looped 2 strands of yarn in with a crochet hook. If you'd like a tutorial for that, I know that wasn't much of an explanation, but I can definitely make a tutorial. And now on to my next work in progress, which I do kind of have a finished object for. And that is the sock that I've been working on for quite some time, or a sock design I've been working on for quite a while. I had actually started this project when I still lived away from home, and the project is this. I'm very happy about them. So basically, this little pattern started out as kind of a doodling project with yarn. And one of my favorite things to do is just kind of doodle and knitting with color work. So once you kind of get your stitch count established in color work and sort of know if your sock is gonna like be able to be divided up into 5 stitch groups, it's very easy to create little designs around those tiny groups so it goes in a circle and connects without any hiccups. And so once you get like your established stitch count set up with just a very basic colorwork design or pattern, usually it's very easy to go on from there and just have some fun and create little patterns. And so here you can kind of see, I didn't really put much thought into it because I just went with rows, but I really like that look of having just a bunch of repetitive rows of color work in knitting. I'd really like a sort of a stripy cardigan in a similar style. So I definitely will have a Fair Isle cardigan on my needles at some point. Not that this is really Fair Isle at all. But yeah, this was the first, I guess, the first draft of the pattern. There's a lot of mistakes in it, and not that I mind. I'm just happy they're finished. I actually I couldn't afford buying some new sock yarn when I had started knitting these, so I just used some Holstgarn Super Soft and some fingering weight yarn from a recycled sweater to knit the body or the leg and the foot of the sock, which I would not recommend because, well, Holstgarn Super Soft is kind of a lofty, almost, it's not single ply, but I can't see it holding up that well if you were to use this as a work sock. So this is kind of just a sock I strictly wear around the house. I actually have a little cake of it here. So this is what Holstgarn Super Soft looks like in its little cake. And as you can see, it is very easy to break. But this is my favorite yarn to use for knitting garments. It makes such a beautiful, airy garment, and once it's knit together, it's a lot stronger. But for high friction projects like socks, I don't think it would be the best thing to use. But on the heels, I did use a little skein of sock yarn. So this yarn was high twist, it was very durable, and had a little bit of nylon content in it. So in the places where it matters, it does have tough yarn. But I still wouldn't wear these to work. I would still feel comfortable wearing them out for the day, like grocery shopping or something, just not hard manual labor. But yeah, this is the first copy of the sock or pattern. And I guess I should show you, I'll keep these up here so you can kind of see them. This is the final sort of draft of the pattern. I do still have to make a few adjustments, and but I'm very happy with how it turned out. I just sort of tidied up some areas and adjusted the stitches or the stitch counts a little bit for each colorwork chart, so hopefully I'll be able to make 4 sizes for the sock. I'm not sure if that's overkill for a sock pattern, but I really want to have a lot of different sizes available. So I think this might be the smallest size. I wear a woman's size US 8 shoe, and this fits me perfectly, and it still does have a little bit of stretch, so I think that could fit maybe up to maybe a size 9 or 10, US size 9 or 10, and then a little bit below it. And then I also am including some charts for larger sizes. So I believe 2 sizes larger than this, if men want to knit it, or if you have a larger leg than me. And I also want to include some additional increases for the cuff. So the cuff would have more stitches, probably, and the stitch increases would go probably down to this dotted line. And I'm still working that out. I think I'm going to hide the increases in these gaps between the charts, just because this is kind of a tall sock, and for me it's perfect because once it hits my calf, it's nice and tight and stays there. But I can see some sizes needing increases because the sock is fairly tall. So yeah, I'm still working that out. I really want this to be perfect for when I release it, but I know if I continue making patterns, I'm probably going to find some issues with it later. But for now, being a beginner, I want to do everything in my power to make it as complete as I possibly can, or know how to. Another feature of this sock that I wanted to include was a Latvian braid. I absolutely love Latvian braids. I think they make a project, they give a project just an extra little whimsical touch, I think. And so you'll learn how to make a Latvian braid. It's got a garter ridge on either side. And then I also included my favorite heel recipe for socks. And it's just a heel flap and gusset, but if you can see, it's slip stitch. And then usually I used to not like continue the slip stitch pattern once I started turning the heel to make that little cup, but I wrote it out so all of the slip stitches continue going down the foot, so you don't have a weird little area that doesn't have a float in it, that isn't reinforced. And I also included that for the toe on the sock, so you still have the floats all throughout the sock's anatomy. I know that's one thing that kind of bothers me if I knit a colorwork sock and the floats, like unless the colorwork is just concentrated towards the top of the cuff, it kind of bothers me when colorwork socks don't have those reinforcing floats all throughout the sock, so I included that. And I still have a lot of work to do with this pattern, but I really hope people like it, and I really hope I end up writing it well. I'm going to do a test knitters call soon for this pattern, and this sock is a little wet because I blocked it out, but yeah, I'll do a test knitters call for this pattern soon. And I'll probably have a little form to fill out in my Ravelry group for testers. I will want my test knitters to have a Ravelry account, so when I sell the pattern on Ravelry, there will be more projects to look at and reviews, just to kind of see people's experiences and their finished objects on Ravelry. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff I still have to figure out how to do, like how to set up a Google group for the pattern. I'm not even sure what it's called. So that kind of tells you how new I am to this. But yeah, I'm really, really excited. But also incredibly nervous and terrified. But mostly excited. Mostly good things. So yeah, I'm still not sure what I'm gonna call these socks. I kind of want to call them the moonwalk socks, just because they've got moons on them and they're socks for your feet. But I think that might be a little cheesy. I don't know. I think I should talk about what yarns I used in this pattern. So for the light colored yarn, that is from Akara Yarns. Oh, it's so beautiful. And this is her merino sock. It's 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and it is in the coyote colorway. And Akara Yarns is definitely one of my favorite yarn dyers. Every time I visit her Etsy, I can't spend all my money there, but sometimes I'll just go and see what she's got, and there's so many colors that I love. It's just, I think she's got a really good color sense. And everything she dyes is just absolutely beautiful. So I would highly recommend giving her shop a visit. It's got these really beautiful, like, burnt orange speckles with some brown, and it's honestly the speckled yarn of my dreams. Here you can kind of see how it knits up. It's absolutely beautiful. And for the brown yarn, that is from Knitting Nakwabi. And she does natural hand-dyed organic yarn. I've got her label here. And this yarn actually came in a set. And it was the Funny Pair sock set. Called Todd and Copper, and this is the label for that. And oh, I should get the mini skein that came with it. 1 minute. This is the mini skein that came with it. So it was inspired after the Fox and the Hound movie, which is one of my absolutely favorite Disney movies of all time, other than Treasure Planet. Fox and the Hound and Treasure Planet, those are my favorite Disney movies. But anyways, the colors were absolutely beautiful, and as soon as I saw this sock set, I had to have it, so I ordered it as soon as I could. But this is 100% non-superwash merino wool, so that is the brown color. And then the 20 grams mini skein is a 75-25 superwash merino nylon, probably for heels and toes, just to be a little extra durable. And what I really love about her shop is she gets all of these beautiful colors from natural sources, and I love seeing her stories because she dyes with like avocado pits and onion skins, and it's just really inspiring. She also sent me this little extra cute little mini skein, and it is the most perfect shade of, it's like a really rich, deep golden, like burnt orange color. This is like one of my favorite colors. If I could have an entire cardigan in this color, I would, so I might be keeping my eyes peeled for something similar to this in her shop. But it is a gorgeous color, and I know I'm gonna have extra yarn from this when I finish knitting my moon socks. So I think I'm gonna have to knit something, like I'm gonna have to knit a pair of socks in all 3 of these colors, or maybe just keep this in a different sock. I just want to knit with them right away. But yeah, that is the yarn I used for those socks. It's very beautiful. The colors make me very happy. These are all my favorite colors. As you can see, I love earth tones. And yeah. Now on to something I've been embroidering. Oh. Isn't it beautiful? I was inspired by a PDF pattern that I downloaded from, I believe her Etsy name is Matryoshka Doll Shop. I'll leave a link to her Etsy down below because she's got a lot of really fun embroidery patterns. But her pattern doesn't look exactly like this. I didn't actually have the supplies I needed to complete the pattern in its PDF, like that is included in the PDF. So while I'm waiting for those supplies to ship in, I just decided to use some yarn and some colors that I had and a slightly smaller embroidery hoop to practice some of the stitches. And I'm really loving the result. I think I'm gonna keep this in my bedroom just because it's got a really cozy feel to it. And yeah, I've got to put something here and a flower here. I believe I'm gonna put the stem to these little daisies down below, and then add a whole bunch of different stars. But I really enjoyed stitching these, and I can't wait to actually stitch the real pattern. It's a lot of fun, and I believe I did this in an evening. A lot of these stitches are really easy to achieve, and I would highly recommend buying a PDF from her shop if you want to get into floral embroidery. And yeah, this is what the back looks like. It's a little messy, but that's okay. I just used some scrap fabric and some yarn I had lying around, some fingering weight yarn. So this is actually Jamieson's. And then this is some single ply fingering weight yarn. Focus. And it made for really cute little puffs on that flower. And then I did have a little bit of embroidery floss, so I ended up using that. And this was just a lot of fun to make. It definitely doesn't live up to the real PDF just because I improvised on some of these stitches just to practice a little bit and see what would happen. But yeah, really excited for that to come in. And that's it for this embroidery. The next thing that I have been working on is a massive quilt. And this is kind of a impulse make. I know we've all kind of been stuck at home and we've been looking for projects we can do with stuff we already have. So I had a lot of this extra cotton fabric lying around. So I made, or it's not finished yet, but I'm making a quilt. And to secure the cotton fabric to this, which is an old microfiber blanket, I am embroidering it with a whole bunch of different stars. I don't really want to unfold it just because it is kind of in a weird state right now. I do have most of the fabric secured to the stuffing, but I don't want to take any chances, so I'm just going to show you a few little corners. So there's that one, and it does have a lot of lint on it, because I have been rolling this around on the floor, stitching it. And I think this will end up being about the size, a little smaller than a twin size quilt. So this will probably hang out on my sofa if I want a nice heavy blanket to snuggle up with. And I'm not buying new materials for this, so I'm very proud of that. Here's another little corner. Oh, there's so much lint on it. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's gonna be covered in stars. I'm not really following any pattern. I'm just knitting stars where I think they should go, and eventually it'll look like some sort of night sky somewhere. And I'm going to maybe put some moons on it. I'm not sure yet, but that's my quilt. This is kind of what the back looks like, how it's getting secured to that blanket. And so my plan is to at least have the entire blanket secured with stars, that star clusters this dense. And then once I get the backing fabric for it for the bottom of the quilt, I'm going to maybe make little dots, stitch little dots to secure that to the rest of the quilt, evenly spaced. So on the back it looks nice and neat, and then on the front you'll just see these little dots that also look like stars, and hopefully that'll be enough. I might use, I know they have like iron-on adhesives that come out in sheets that you can also apply to quilts, so I might put that on the back just because there won't be as many like star embroidery bits to secure it. So I might put that on, and then who knows, maybe even sew it in a grid pattern. I'm not sure yet. I kind of just started this on a whim, and I'm really enjoying the process. Hopefully when I put it in the washer it doesn't fall apart. I don't think it will, but I am going to be a little more precious with this. And yeah, I'll let you know how the stuffing works out. I know that's not really conventional in any way, but it's what I had, and I'm not going to the store to buy more polyfill or anything like that. So yeah, I believe that is it. I think the last thing I will talk about is my outfit, just because I did make the skirt I was wearing. So I'm wearing a 90% thrifted outfit. My undershirt, which you can't really see, is actually a Lord of the Rings shirt that I got as a Christmas gift, so I'm wearing that underneath my blouse. But yeah, so my blouse is from Poshmark, and it's really gorgeous, and I love buying from Poshmark. You have to be careful who you buy from though, because you might actually be purchasing from a shop that brings in new fast fashion items. So this is fast fashion. I believe this top is originally from Zara, but a little shop was selling it from somebody somewhere in the United States. And so this was actually secondhand, and I just really love buying secondhand, especially from online shops like Poshmark. A lot of people will have it as a little side hustle, and that'll help them buy groceries. And in this case, she sent me a little thank you card, and she actually works with special needs children, and she uses a lot of the funds that she gets from her Poshmark shop to, you know, buy supplies for the class. So I thought that was very sweet. So yeah, Zara top. My earrings are from Flatwoods Fawn. I'll link her down below to her Instagram and Etsy shop. And I really love her handmade jewelry. It's very beautiful. I was never really a big dangly earring person until I saw her jewelry, and I just fell in love. So those are the earrings I'm wearing. They're handmade. I'm wearing my hair in a pull-through braid, and my skirt I made by hand. It's actually made from a thrifted skirt that was too big for me. So I ended up chopping off the top of the skirt and using that for a quilt for scraps. And I was left with this big, huge, long rectangle with a button band on it. So I just added a whole bunch of pleats and to the top to make it my measurements. And so now it's kind of a really cute paper baggy looking skirt with buttons down the middle. And then I just paired it with a thrifted belt. And I'm just wearing socks because I'm not going out anywhere today, so that is just my outfit for the podcast, and I'm probably gonna put on some PJ pants after this. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me again. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope I was a little bit better at explaining a few things. I know you guys probably don't notice it, but I do get quite nervous. And I'm not sure why. It is just a camera, but it's kind of like talking in an interview in some ways. Not at all that I was being formal in any way. It makes me nervous and I end up messing up some stuff. So I hope I will be able to eventually work past that. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Again, I am Pikku Kimalainen on Instagram and Ravelry. On Ravelry, you can introduce yourself in one of the introductions threads. The introduction thread that I opened up, there's a little questionnaire, so you can get to know everybody in the group. And anyways, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay home, and I just hope everybody's been taking care of themselves as best they can. And I'll see you next time. Bye. So that's a beautiful face. So, hey, look up.